lot, Mohammed. I think the audience is already tired with a very good demo with the previous speaker. ADK being one of the famous open source framework for building agents, it's key and essential for us to understand. Yeah, but also the concepts that where I am trying to pitch in today is like how better you can, use Google Cloud for your operational needs or your SRE needs. As very well you saw, there were a lot of situations where in the current demo itself we had problems. We had to understand the IAM bindings, or we had to understand authentication, lot many things in order to get there. So how Google Cloud itself helps us to unblock this kind of bottlenecks whenever we are building a full-fledged end-to-end application is what I'm trying to, add in. Let me quickly share my screen. Um, yeah. So what we are going to look today. So we are going to understand how better we can use the products or offerings that we have in Google Cloud in order to monitor or in order to build an end-to-end observability stack. um, for it can be for our application, or it can be for data pipeline related architecture, or it can be an agentic AI system like how you saw now ADK. When you saw ADK, there were few traces that you saw on the left hand side. You saw something called as a trace tab, wherein it showed you a lot of things like when did the LLM was called, how many seconds or minutes the LLM took time for you to respond, what agent was called. So what that really helps you to understand how the agentic AI system also, works end to end. So these kind of operational things is what I'm going to discuss that we have in Google Cloud. So there are many more actually. And not tracing is not just one, there are many more that you can. I'll keep my session very, less on the slides. I just have 2 to 3 slides, but I will show you on the Google Cloud console itself. It will be like an show and tell for you to understand what are all the options that we have in order to debug or build an end-to-end SRE practices, or it can be also an operational practice. So I'll start with a good quote. Without end-to-end visibility, or like, without having a proper framework, it's really difficult for you to understand the bottleneck, or it is highly difficult for you to diagnose your errors. So it is essential for any system uh, to have an end-to-end visibility. Not just having a dashboard or not just having alerts or uptime checks is enough for any kind of a distributed system or a microservice architecture or a containerized architecture, or it can be agentic AI systems where you have multiple agents connecting to each other or talking to each other, or an agent might be talking to a different endpoint using an MCP server. So it is not just a mono agent. It is like multiple agents. If it is multi-agent architecture, it is not a simple architecture. It is quite complex. So in order to find the bottleneck, it is quite difficult for you without having an end-to-end, solution. So going with the prime product that we have in Google Cloud, which is called as Google Cloud Operations Suite. So why they call it as an suite? Because it is one kit or a suite which has almost 90% of what is needed for you to build monitoring, uh, um, or it can be observability, creating alerts, uptime check, SLO based alerts, or it can be using profilers in order to understand your application better. There are many more things actually within the Google Cloud Operations Suite, which is what we are going to see. And also it comes in with a logging framework as well, so you can also see your logs, understand uh, how to check your audit logs, data logs, or user logs, application logs. So there are many products within the Google Cloud Operations Suite. So that is what we are going to see. So I can't, stop, or I cannot, go without having this kind of a good diagram, which Priyanka Vargadia, she's famous on, showing or drawing this kind of visualization diagrams that clearly helps us to understand or summarize all the products that we have. Let me quickly minimize my, yeah. Okay, hope you can see my whole screen now. So this is a just high level overview of what are all the offerings that we have as part of Cloud Operations Suite, and I'll touch base on each of them. Then I'll go to the Google Cloud Console itself and I'll show you each and every product. So let's start with monitoring. So monitoring is a place wherein you explore your metrics. So what is metric? A metric is nothing but it's a numerical value or a quantifiable that you can measure. So it can be your infra related metric or it can be your application related metric. Let's say infra. So let's say you have a compute engine. It can be a GKE or it can be cloud run, cloud function. It's all the compute options. So if you want to measure infra-related metrics to these compute options, it can be the memory utilization, CPU utilization, or any kind of such infra-related metrics has to be monitored. So you have to start with the quantifiable, which is the metric itself. So that is what metrics. And once you have metrics, the next and foremost thing is like, in order to visualize that into a time series graph or into a bar chart or in any kind of a chart, you need to have a dashboard, so you have to depict that. So monitoring helps you to create dashboards using the metrics. And there are a couple of other things. Let's say you have a dashboard and you have depicted using your metric, but having just a dashboard will not help you, right? Because let's say if your CPU utilization is more than 90%, then you need to be notified. So if it's just a dashboard, until unless you see that, you will not be able to understand. So you'll have to convert that to alerts. So monitoring will also support you to convert that to alerts, wherein you can set thresholds, and whenever the metric reaches that threshold, the alerts will be triggered. In the alert policies, you can clearly mention which notification channel you have to use, and the notification channel can be email or any kind of a supported notification channel which will be triggered. So that is one thing, and it also supports uptime check. So it is also necessary for your application or your endpoint. You need to check the health of your endpoint, whether it is really up and running. So Google supports uptime check, where they try to ping your endpoint that whatever you give in order to monitor. So if there is no 200 OK or whatever you consider as success, then you can get alerts for the uptime checks as well. So this is the high level of what monitoring has, but it has quite more as well. And I'll cover while I show the demo. So next, coming to logging, this is very important because uh, there can be many different logging solution that you can implement. Let's say you have an application running in your Google Cloud, and you might be using Splunk or you might be using Grafana, New Relic in order to view your logs. But keep in mind, the first golden source of where the logs are will be in Google Cloud. You have to export your logs to your telemetry backend, if it is Grafana, New Relic, or whatever it is. But Google says if you don't want to use additional logging tool, you can still use the Google's own cloud logging, which is more robust for you to drill down to your logs, add filters, adjust all the time frames, filter according to the resource, according to the whatever criteria you want. So you can add more query. You can query your logs. They call it as LQL, logging querying language. So you can query your logs. I'll show that as well, and you can save your queries, and you can revisit you or rerun the same query whenever you want. There are much many things whenever you want to deal with logging within Google Cloud. So this is uh, coming to logging. So this is one of the offering that we have as part of Google Cloud Operations Suite. And the third one is like last or but not least, it is the key most important, I would say, in today's world, because as I mentioned before, monitoring will not tell you like why it happened. It will tell you, something is wrong. That's all. But why or what is the details about the issue can only be you can only understand that if you have a proper observability built in. Like, you need to know what function has been called, which function was failing, or what call was how many number of records was pulled from the database. All these details has to be fetched if you want to debug an end-to-end journey. With just monitoring, it's highly difficult, and with logging, it is possible, but you will have to put a lot of your efforts. You'll have to go and see each and every lines of the log. You need to stitch them together in order to find one end-to-end journey. Even after stitching them together, you will have to manually count the latency of each and every events that occur, and each and every subsystem that is being called. So finding those latencies or finding the end-to-end traceability with just logging is quite difficult. That is where Google Cloud comes up with inbuilt observability, and the product they call it as Cloud Trace. So the reason they call it as Cloud Trace, traces and spans are something that's a common term. It's a term wherein trace is a parent. In traces there are multiple things like parent trace, or they call it as spans. Underneath trace we have spans. You can think like it is like a uh, parent call, and all the child calls, like whatever the other methods or functions or subsystem is being called, will be the child span. I'll show you all this in the demo itself. So that is something which we have for Cloud Trace. And as I mentioned, it's mainly to measure your latency and understand your request flow, and add in more details with many advanced frameworks, open source frameworks like OpenTelemetry. It's one of the standard that you can use along with CloudTrace in order to build your own, uh, I would say, like end-to-end tracing framework. So that is CloudTrace. Along with that, we have a couple more things like Cloud Profiler, Cloud Debugger. Cloud Profiler mainly helps you to understand your app performance in order to, if you want to optimize your app, firstly you want to understand where is the sweet spot, or where you need to optimize it, which part of your app is taking too time. So Profiler will help you to do that. So similarly, we have a debugger, and there are a couple more other advanced tools which is not being listed here, but I'll show you during the demo. We have something called as log analytics. So it is something that you can apply analytics on your logs, and you can run basic SQL queries on your cloud logging to better understand with advanced SQL queries, rather than just searching the logs and trying to understand. You can convert it to SQL based search as well. So this is the high level of what Google provides you in part of Cloud Trace. So as I said, I kept my slides very limited. I will straight away go to the action, and we'll see some interesting things that we discussed just now. So this is Google Cloud Console, as you guys are familiar with. So once you open the Google Cloud Console, on the left-hand side hamburger symbol, you will see lot many things. So if you see here, let me show you. You'll also see the products that we just discussed as well. Yeah. Okay. So if you see the monitoring tab, so you will see many things which we just spoke about. So starting with the first overview page, This is where you land in whenever you click on the monitoring. It has some overview of like what all you have as part of your product. It can be your resources that you have, or it can be the incidents, open incidents, or the your errors, or the status of your logs. They just summarize everything based on what you have created as part of your monitoring. You might have like 10 alerts, or you might have 100 alerts. They will show you all in this one dashboard or overview page. Coming to the dashboard section, this is something that will summarize all your dashboards in one go, wherein you can see what are all the dashboards that you have. It can be user created dashboard, or it can be Google created dashboard. You can see here there are a couple of Google created dashboard. Let's say I click on cloud monitoring. So I have a cloud run service running, which I created for this demo. So what Google does, it creates a custom dashboard for you. Sorry, not the custom. It creates a default dashboard for you, and as part of this default dashboard, it comes in with couple of inbuilt, charts. It is left to you. Either you can extend this, you can clone this, and you can extend this based on your needs, or it can also be like you can just leave with this dashboard since it is serving your purpose. You can just say, okay, this is what I need. Google has already created this as part of default dashboard. I'm okay with this. So like this, whenever you create any kind of a service, let's say you create a GKE cluster, you will see one default dashboard that will be created by Google in this tab, which underneath Google Services. Similarly, if you create your own custom dashboard, it will go under the custom tab, wherein you will see your own custom dashboards that are grouped here. So likewise, there are many sections that you can see in the dashboard, place. Coming to the metrics explorer, so this is very important because, as I mentioned, everything will start from a metric, which is a quantifiable that you can measure, and Google supports different types of metrics. Some of them are like default metrics. Let's say I have a cloud run service. If I click on cloud run, then I can see a container related metrics, and I can see container CPU utilization. And if I click on container CPU utilization, and if I apply, and I can add a filter, I can say service name. I have a service called GDGSX demo, and I click on that, and I can see here, I can, change things like I can say a bar chart, or I can say line chart. I think based on how it is supported, you need to play around here. So you need to understand how the distribution you need to do, or what kind of aggregation functions you need to use. So let's try to do something. I think here it is already showing you few things. Let me try to show you location. Yeah, so it will create, based on the metrics that you select, and you can also, add in more metric here, and you can create multiple queries along with the metrics that you have. So this is one of the inbuilt metric, but there can also be a custom metric. So when you create a custom metric, it can be a log based metrics. Let's say there is a log line that you are interested, and if you find that log line, then you want to show that in chart, or you want to alert something. So that is your own custom log that the application is printing. So you'll have to create that custom metric, log based metric. Once that custom log based metrics is created, you can see here log based metrics. I go here, log based metrics, create a metric, and I say whether what is the metric type, and I say the metric name. And once I come here, I'll have to give the query. So what I'm doing is I'll have to tell the log based metric that this is the query that you run on the logs, and once you find that particular line, then you show that in me in the chart. So the query that I told is what I'll be showing you later. So that query is what you need to give here. And once you click on create metric, this will become a new metric that you can explore here, and it will come under a custom metric section. As of now, there's no custom metric, but it will come under unspecified resource underneath log based metrics. You will find your own metric that you gave the name, and you can click on that metric and you can start building charts. You can try, creating alerts on your own custom metrics. So that is about the metrics explorer. Coming to the key most important part, which I told, which is Log Explorer. So this is the place where you will be exploring your logs. Let's quickly go to Cloud Run. I'll show you how to use Log Explorer. So yeah, so this is one of the Cloud Run service which I just created in order to show you how to use all the features of Google Cloud Operations Suite. So the first and foremost thing, whenever you come to any of the services, right, it can be Cloud Run or it can be GKE or it can be ADK. You saw ADK inbuilt had a tracing option. So likewise, Google Cloud supports inbuilt logging and tracing within that service itself. In Cloud Run, you can see it has inbuilt, logs panel, wherein you can see the logs here itself. You no need to go to cloud logging, and you can see metrics here itself. You no need to go to metrics explorer. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to help you to get things specific to your service and specific to your resources within that particular product itself. Similarly, you can also see your errors, pertaining to your application service or something. So coming to logs, here logs is just limited. You can see, but it is very limited. You can't play around. So that is where cloud logging will extend, helping you to add in more things. So how it helps is this is where I was talking about. So this is the logging query language. They call it as LQL. If you could see the language, Google call it as logging query language. So you can drill down to resource level. So first is I'm telling my resource is a Cloud Run, and my service name is this, and the location is this, and severity of log I need is default. So if I click on the left hand side, I can see many things here. If I click, I'll select the project ID, then project ID goes to the filter. Similarly, if I select the log name, I can see there are different types of logs. I can play around with whatever log I need. So there are many things like this. And also, if you see, there is a graphical representation where you can see where were your occurrence of your application that was running. You can see the bar here. So the application was active during this time around 2 o'clock, and you can also drag like this, and you can just say run query. What it will do, it will automatically pick the timestamp that you used, and it will change the timestamp, and it will show the logs only within that window. Now I got to know it is somewhere here. So what I do, I drag it again here and I say run query. Again, the timestamp changed and it went here. So if I want to, download this, I can go to actions, I can download, or I can create a metric, or create a sync, or I can create an alert, or I can highlight result. Let's say in log, I'm trying to find something, keyword called SX. So if I say highlight, it will clearly show you those keywords. You don't need to, open your eyes wide and see those keywords. It is helping you to address or highlight things easily. So there are many features like this, which you can, make use of it instead of, you know, immediately thinking about a different logging tool. As a good practice, you can extend these capabilities, try and see how it helps you to unblock all the required, the whatever you need as part of your requirement. If it is still, there is a necessary for you to go for a different additional tool for enabling logging, then it makes sense, because otherwise you're simply ending up paying the egress cost, because if you are forwarding your logs to an external logging tool, bear in mind you're paying many things. You'll be paying for the network traffic. You'll be paying for the, you know, the packets that will be sending, and there will be a, bit of a delay because the logs has to go there. And not just that, there is a problem of you need to make sure that the logs are masked properly. You should not be exposing all the uh, data like the PA data or any kind of confidential data. So those are all come in, those things comes into picture if you're going out of your uh, you know uh, place where you have your application running. So that is one thing. Apart from that, I think, yeah, this is much on the cloud logging. So you can also see the resources here. They have a couple of drop down, or you can manually start with writing onto resources, or then type. It will start giving you till it will tell you like what are the different options that it supports. So going back to Cloud Trace, sorry, Cloud Run. Yeah. So we covered cloud logging. Now let's cover Cloud Trace. So I just created one sample app just to show you how Cloud Trace will work. So this is just, I would say, Hello World app to help you to understand how the traces can be pushed whenever an application is running, how the application which helps you to, you know, debug whenever you want to debug your application. The first and foremost thing what you'll do is go and check the logs of your application. You'll come to know like this is the place where my function is called. This is the place where my function is exited. This is where the database call happened. So this is how you traditionally look whenever you debug your application using the traditional way. But Cloud Trace or Observability, it does the same thing, but it gives you in the UI format wherein you can easily, figure out or spot those kind of flow within your application. So let's uh, run that application, and now let's go to Cloud Trace. So before talking more about CloudTrace, it's an observability platform, comes in along with Google Cloud, and it helps you to mainly focus on your latency, or I would say your application. It is related to your APM, application performance monitoring. So if you could see here, there are many traces or spans, I would say. So these are all the places where the execution happened for my application. And if I start, filtering based on the timestamp, you can see here we triggered just now, and you can see how much time it took in duration, what is the span ID, and what is the endpoint. There are many more things. If you click on this, this is very simple. That's why I kept it just basic function call, one function calling another function. But traditionally, it will be much more. The traces will be like, I would say, like the spans here, it is only three, but in a complex application, it might be minimum 15 to 20. It depends upon the how the application, how complex it is. So as I mentioned, the trace ID trace ID is a unique identifier for your individual journey. You can think it like a correlation ID. Like correlation ID is something that the user creates as part of the the code you create, right, for each and every journey. Similarly, trace ID is a unique ID that created for one journey, and the trace here that you see is the parent trace, and that's why you see if I click on this, the parent trace is something which took around 1.015 nanoseconds. And if I expand this, the parent trace had a call to a function called hello, API hello. And you can see here there are multiple attributes that you can see. What is the status code? Then there are many things that you can still add. This is something default, but if you try to instrument your code, you can update more attributes to your traces. So that attributes will really help whenever someone is debugging. They can clearly see like this is the query that was run for the database. This is the number of records that was returned from the database. Those things you can extent, it depends on how you instrument your code. When I say instrument, instrumenting your code is nothing but the application itself will not know how to send metrics related to application. So you will have to tell the application, you have to use either APIs, either OpenTelemetry APIs or any other APIs, and wherever you need to send that, and you need to set those attributes. Only then the traces will carry those attributes. So if you see, it will here it carried what is the location, what is the region, then what cloud platform it used, account ID, what is the URL of the application, status code. This is just basic, but you can still add in more based on your requirement, where you which you feel that it is easy for you to debug quickly, and clearly it shows you how much time it took for the total duration. So this is something from CloudTrace. So, and there is also many filters on the left hand side wherein you can set what span name, or what is the kind of the span. There are many things, duration. So like that you can add in more. So you might be wondering how these traces are coming in from the cloud trace. Did we do any instrumentation to the code, or did we use any open telemetry, or how these traces are being stored? So to answer in a nutshell, Google provides you inbuilt option for tracing for some of the compute options like Cloud Run and App Engine. There are few, but there are few other compute options like Cloud Composer, or if you take GKE, you will not be able to see the traces by default. That is the uh, that is the area where you need to focus. If you are using those kind of compute options, then you will have to just build a end-to-end stack to send the traces to cloud trace. So the way you send is, you might use OpenTelemetry. Using OpenTelemetry, what you do, you create a you run your OpenTelemetry agent. Let's say if you have a Java application, microservice application running in your GKE, and you want to send traces similarly how we have showing it here for Cloud Run, which is by default coming in because Google supports by default for Cloud Run. For GKE, if you are using OpenTelemetry or OTel, the OTel agent, let's say if it is a Java service, the OTel agent will be running along with your Java service, and it will take your metrics that you are sending from the instrumentation code, and those metrics will be forwarded by the agent to the CloudTrace endpoint. Either you can send directly to the CloudTrace endpoint so that you can visualize like this, or you can use something called as collector, which is called as OTel collector, which is again a daemon running. It will try to collect all your traces, and then the OTel collector will be further sending it to CloudTrace. So now, where these attributes are stored, or the traces are stored, Google Cloud Trace has its inbuilt storage, and all these attributes will be stored within the Google Cloud Trace storage. So that's something from the cloud storage, Cloud Trace, and the ADK, that the demo that you saw on the ADK side, the traces that you saw, it is also using OTel, and it is also the cloud trace, but it is not exactly the cloud trace that you see here. But you can still use the ADK and forward the traces from ADK to cloud trace and visualize similarly your agentic AI flow within the Google Cloud using the cloud trace. Because if you are using ADK, most probably you'll be using it using your Vertex AI. And if you are using Vertex AI, definitely you are into Google Cloud. And if you are into Google Cloud, why not use the Cloud Trace as a distributed tool? So that is one thing. The use case is like you can use it for application, or you can use it for agentic flow or any kind of such things. So coming to monitoring back, yeah. I think we covered most of them. There are few things that we can also see. One is error reporting. So error reporting is nothing but it will try to show your errors in a different way, wherein you can see the stack properly, or you can also see couple of other things like number of occurrence, what is the response code, many other things that you can use it for your reporting as well. So this is something that you can see, like how you can reduce your applications, performing in situations where it is throwing unnecessary errors, or it might be an error that can be neglected, or it can be something that can be worked on. But if you build a proper reporting on your errors, it will definitely help you to optimize your application in a better way. So error reporting helps you to do that. And also uptime check, as I mentioned, it's kind of pinging your application and checking whether your application is running or not. So whenever you click on create uptime check, so you are telling that what is your protocol, what is your URL of your application, and the path. Then you also give couple of other details like on how you want to decide whether it is healthy or up and running, 200 okay, or what it is. Then you want to convert it as an alert. If you are not getting the dedicated response that you are looking for, you want to convert it as an alert. So you can convert it as an alert, and then you can create. So you'll see an uptime check which is actively pinging your endpoint, and you will be notified whenever your endpoint is not healthy. So this is something from the uptime checkpoint. Similarly, there are different other things. So synthetic monitoring, so it's basically if you want to do some kind of synthetic testing for your application, you can create a synthetic monitoring system. It is a different complex topic, so I'm not going to cover this. But on a high level, if you want to do synthetic monitoring, you do also have option from the Google Cloud Operations Suite. So covering up few other things, yeah. So SLO. So as you know, applications close to users are very critical, or most of the time they are Cat A applications, because if it is users who are using end users, then you need to make sure there is no SLA breach, and you need to make sure that the users are always getting the right response, and always the quick response. So whenever you want to design a system with the best SRE practice, you need to understand SLO, SLI, SLA, and you need to convert your SLO into an alert so that you make sure that you don't breach your SLA. So in order to do that, Google supports you, because Google is the one who pioneered, or they founded the SRE practices. So they provide you support to figure out or create SRE practices like error budgets. You can also create error budgets and understand where you're lacking, or whether it is right time for you to release new features, or are you supposed to wait until you fix all your bugs and then you release new features. So those kind of things can be done. You can create error budgets, alerts based on error budget, or SLO based alerts. Many more things can be done in the SLO sections as well. Log based metrics, I think we saw how to create a log based metric. Otherwise, I think log router is nothing, like it's a router. Whenever your application is logging something, right, or whenever your resources are logging, it has to go and it has to be stored in some place, right? Only then the cloud logging can visualize or show you whatever the logs are there. Like in traditional way, we used to store in a particular path. From there, it's where the logs will be checked, right? Similarly, in Google Cloud, there are two buckets, which we call it as default and required bucket. It's inbuilt bucket that Google creates whenever you create a project, and all your logs will go to these buckets based on the log router that you configure. And you can also create your own routers, and you can also create your own sync. So this is the place where it decides which logging bucket it has to route, and the cloud logging, the logs that we saw, is basically pulling the logs from these buckets, and it is showing you in the cloud logging uh, UI. So yeah, that is something about the cloud logging. Otherwise, I think, yeah, nothing much. I think this is what I was thinking to cover, because most of the people, they they think that logging and monitoring, definitely we need to use a different solution. But my view is like try to see if you are already into Google Cloud, and if you're already your resources are already into Google Cloud, try and see if this is helping you even before going to a different third party solution. So there is many more things that you can also do. You can run your Prometheus server, manage Google Cloud supports managed Prometheus server. You can run your managed Prometheus server, and you can scrape your metrics. And there are many other things as well. Like as I mentioned, right, hotel being one of the common standard, Google closely supports open source, and they always keep it cloud native. So you can keep your architecture or a system more cloud native focus and open source focus. That way, if you want to migrate from Google Cloud Operations Suite, you are not tied up to this vendor. You can easily migrate because you are not using any proprietary APIs. Instead, you are using open source APIs and open source standards, and it is always easy for you to change your monitoring or your logging or observability stack at any time. So I'll just open the forum for questions. This is what I would like to cover today.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Santosh. Was very insightful. Who actually try to manage our solution and try to see actually how is doing their application or their infrastructure, whatever solution they build in the Google Cloud. It is very helpful for them. So, any question for Santosh?
I have a question.
Okay, you may continue.
Yes, so it's about how all this configuration, whether it's possible to script it in a way, or and if there are some LLMs or something that can help you do that. So let's say I'm new to all this, and okay, I find me the log where, or build me a dashboard with a CPU memory. I don't know, something like that. Does it work already, or I presume there must be someone working on that.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So Google Cloud comes along with Gemini integration. So I never tried that. I think as an initial, I would say initial step, what you can do is like you can try and use the Google Cloud integrated Gemini to give you insights about your logs. So you can ask like, do I have such errors? Do I have such kind of a pattern or anomaly? So that is one way to start with, and you can further go and check Google Cloud documentation, which I generally look for if there are any such more support wherein they further go ahead and help you to create charts or uptime check or whatever we discuss now. They might be extending that definitely, because that is where most of the monitoring and observability vendors are expanding their you know support or offerings. But yeah, as of now, Gemini can be used in built Google Cloud Gemini to screen or classify your logs. And there is one, sorry, I forgot to uh, show that. There's a log analytics, I guess. Let me show you. Cloud Run.
So there seems to be a lot of different tools. So is there a CLI also to do at least part of this?
When you say CLI, are you talking about Google Cloud CLI, G Cloud, or I didn't get your point, sorry.
Yeah, CLI to see, yeah, to basically do, yeah, this sort of queries, but rather than opening a web browser and go into the console, something that I can
Yeah,
query the status of the cloud from a terminal, basically.
Yeah, yeah, you can do. You can do. So one is you can use like log analytics. Let's say I'm using log analytics here. So what is log analytics is like, as I mentioned, all your logs will be forwarded to a bucket. Either it is default or required bucket. So either you use your UI cloud logging to view your logs, or you can use log analytics. So what is log analytics is it is directly querying your bucket where you have your traces or where you have your logs. Instead of you checking that from the UI, you can just run simple queries, SQL kind of queries. And once you run such queries, you will be able to see your structure in a table format, like how I'm able to show here. And you can further narrow down. Let's say you just want to play around with start time and end time. I'm saying like, don't give me all of them, just give me end time. And it will just narrow down and it will give you only those columns from your logs that you are interested. And if you further want to convert that to a dashboard, right, you can also do that. So you can also convert that to a dashboard. So one is like you can use log analytics if you are want to things automate as a commands rather than relying on UI. Or you can use Google Cloud CLI, which still supports lot many things that you can run as a CLI command. Yeah, there are many options like this that you can rely on. But for automation, you can do that. That is good, as you mentioned. If you want to automate things, you can do from the CLI. But if you want to debug things, if you are not using the UI, then you are going to miss out of a lot of the features that we discussed. For debugging, I would prefer use the UI because that gives you a lot of offerings and options that you can click and play around. But for automation or doing something like creating automatically the dashboards and other things. If CLI supports the Gcloud CLI, you can make use of that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you very much, Santosh. There is any other question? Thank you. Thank you,